Welcome to Case Closed, the Contingency Fee podcast. On the show, our team of industry experts interviews contingency fee attorneys. You will discover everything from how they got started to the secrets of their success and what's working in today's marketplace. And now, here's the Case Closed podcast.
Well, the next session of Case Closed podcast is old get-together. I met Scott Distasio when we were both young attorneys. He was working for a law firm, Bales, Weinstein, and I was working for Alpert, Josie, and Grilly back in the day. So I think it's been, 35 years we've known each other?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is now my time to redeem. We are going to interview one of Tampa's finest plaintiff's attorneys. So, Scott, tell me how you transitioned from the Bales Weinstein world to PI world.
Sure. Actually, it starts before that. For 10 years, I was a medical malpractice defense lawyer in one of the premier defense firms in the Tampa Bay area at the time, from 1990 until 2000.
I actually read a case about you where you were the center of a motion to disqualify Bales Weinstein. I pressed on you, my friend.
That's exactly right. So by the time I was leaving that firm, I became the partner in charge of the nursing home defense practice. And the practice of medicine had kind of changed. It had been, when I started in the early 90s, about making healthcare decisions for individuals. And doctors were doing the best they could to make those healthcare decisions. But as I became more involved in the nursing home defense world, and also defending large healthcare institutions, it became more about healthcare decisions for the institution, for the monetization of healthcare. And I got pretty discouraged with it, And about that time, my firm just kind of imploded, and I had this choice. I had a baby at the house with my wife, and it was either going to take my clients and go to another firm and continue doing what I was doing, or I was going to become a plaintiff's lawyer. And David Weinstein and John Bales were friends of mine, and they were at the same time setting up this law firm. And they said, hey, come join us. And so I kind of took a leap of faith. I fired very large clients with repeat business to help set up a plaintiff's practice in their commercial practice, and their hourly rate fees would finance those plaintiff's personal injury cases.
And then John Bales went on his own and became the TV man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was there about 5 or 6 years, and the firm just wasn't what I wanted it to be, and I wanted to make my own decisions. And so I left. And I did a stint at a plaintiff's personal injury law firm focusing on just nursing home plaintiff's cases. I was there for about a year and then decided, I want to open up my own law firm. I want to make my own decisions. And so that's when Distasio Law Firm was founded in 2007.
So in the last almost 16 years, tell me the most interesting case, and also tell me the case you earned the most money on.
Well, the most interesting case that I have worked on is a case about a young man who was with a church group, and he was, I believe, 13. And his mother entrusted them to go up to snow ski in I believe it was North Carolina mountains, and assumed that they'd be skiing with all these kids because he'd never skied before. And instead of doing that, the volunteers for the church chose to just let the children make their own decision about whether they should go snow skiing on their own or go with the group. And this young man, having a lot of confidence, chose to go in his own, having never skied before, and wandered up onto an expert slope and tipped his skis down and had no idea how to turn until he was probably going 60 miles an hour until he slammed into somebody and lay on the ground paralyzed. And the end of the day comes and the church group is putting everybody in their buses and they're calling out for everyone. And it turns out this young man doesn't answer. And that's the first time the church knew that he was in the hospital paralyzed. It was
Go to trial?
It did. It did. I received threats of going to hell. I was told that God was going to strike me down, but we kind of kept moving forward. We had a $10,000 offer and we got a $5.5 million verdict. Unfortunately, it was overturned on appeal. There was some issues that the defense claimed were jurors who weren't being honest in their questionnaires. I always felt that was a wrong decision to overturn that, but the appellate court did. We retried it. We entered into a confidential agreement during the trial. The case finished out, and second time around there was a defense verdict, unfortunately, but fortunately we locked in a confidential agreement to do the best we could to help the client.
Okay. What is the single most important thing you do every day that you attribute your success to?
I wake up want to help people. I think there's a lot of things I could be doing to make money. And I get up every day and say, how can I help these people? They have things in their lives that, not because of their fault, that have radically changed their lives. And when I focus on how to help them, the stress of the day, the things I need to do to make that happen don't weigh on my shoulders, because I know each step is going along the way to make that person not whole, because you can't do that, but to make their lives better than when I came into their lives.
And how many cases do you generally handle? What's the size of your practice?
We have, at any given time, between 90 and 125 files. I have another lawyer, Melody Leon, who works with me, and she handles all of the pre-suiting of cases and trying to get things resolved prior to litigation. And I handle all the litigation cases. And so, my specific load is a lot smaller than that, because she does a really good job at those cases that, that the other side does the right thing and offers enough to get the case resolved.
And what is the split? Do you have a portion that are product liability cases, a portion med mal, nursing home, and mass tort? Do you specialize in any of those fields?
Yeah, you know what? I don't specialize in the sense that I do one thing, right? But because I've been practicing law 30-something years now, it always shocks me when I say that. I've developed an expertise in several areas, and I actually don't do products liability. If I get a case, and we will certainly look at it, if it has merit, I will help that client find the right lawyer for it. Mostly what we do is nursing home abuse, plaintiffs' nursing home abuse litigation, medical malpractice, and a good share of car crashes as well.
And how do you get most of your clients for each category you described?
People just in the community know me, and they refer cases because they've had a good experience with a law firm, or other lawyers in the community that know me will refer cases to me. And the firm does pay a referral fee to law firms for those cases. We do, from time to time, the internet presence. We have a pretty good reviews online, and those from time to time bring in cases as well.
Who gave you the best advice about practicing law, and what was the advice?
Roland Lamb. I was a young defense lawyer. I had, all the desires to be in the courtroom, and all the desires to, really get in there and see what I could do at trial, but it wasn't happening. I was probably a second or third year lawyer, and I was writing case evaluations, and Roland said to me, Scott, you think the law is about what you have written in the books. But the reality is the law is what you say it is, as long as the judge or the jury believe it. And, I struggled with that. That sounded a bit dishonest in some way. But as I thought about it, it made perfect sense. The law is this thing you interpret. It is not black and white. And it has edges and it has gray areas. And so as you read the law, you begin to see other sides and your side, and you begin to mold it towards what you believe is the outcome. And that kind of changed the way I saw things. And it allowed me to stop being anchored by the written word and being an advocate for my position. And I've always remembered that. And it's helped me very much.
So how have you helped the next generation of the lawyers that are coming out or are already out 3 or 4 years?
So I don't need to have a young lawyer in the office. In some ways, for a firm my size, it can be a hindrance because you're spending your time teaching. But I made that commitment to Melody, and I teach her as best as I can and hand down everything I know. I try to speak at seminars when I'm fortunate to be invited, and I'm a big believer in giving back what I know. But in a smaller firm, I have less of a platform. That's why I'm trying to do more of the things like this, to talk with people and let them know who I am. And if I can help young lawyers, I'd be glad to do that.
Well, what would you like to tell the world about Scott Distasio, who I've known almost 30 years, who has had a reputation when I was introduced to him by David Weinstein and John Bales? He was young like I was, and he had hair and I had dark brown hair, and now we're old. What do you want to tell the world about yourself?
That is such a difficult question. I focus on everybody else. I don't really think about my needs so much.
Well, that's why I'm here, is to pull it out of you. This is the cross-examination of my lifetime right here. Spit it out, son.
There you go. I'm just a guy that's trying to make my way in the world and help my clients to get back to, some semblance of life that they had before. And if I can do that, that's what makes me happy.
Well, fantastic. If you are in the Tampa Bay area and you need an attorney, the man, the myth, the legend, Scott Distasio should be called. Thank you for appearing on the Case Closed podcast.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Case Closed, the Contingency Fee podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening to this week's guests and their insight. If you liked what you heard, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. Case Closed, the Contingency Fee podcast, is led by industry experts who unlock insights from the nation's top contingency fee attorneys. Each week on the show, the guests share how they got started, secrets of their success, and what's working in today's marketplace. Guests on the Case Closed podcast include successful contingency fee attorneys that will share their secrets so you can close more cases. Tune in each week for a dynamic conversation about winning legal strategies that will grow your business.